Hey guys, welcome back. In this lecture, we will look at another constraint, and that is the check constraint. Okay, so a check constraint is a kind of constraint that allow you to specify if values in a column must meet a specific requirement. For example, let's consider our employees table. Suppose we have an age attribute in the employees table, so we must restrict this attribute in such a way that no one can insert employees rows with age below 18 years or where age LU less than 18. Okay, or you can also think of salary attribute as well, and by adding check constraint on salary we can make sure some minimum number of salary and no employee row will be inserted without satisfying this check. Okay, and there are many other examples as well where we can use this check constraint, and the check constraint uses a boolean expression to evaluate the values before they are inserted or updated to the column. If the values for the required columns pass the check, Postgres will insert or update these values to the column. Otherwise, Postgres will reject the changes and issue a constraint violation error. And you can add this check constraint at the table creation as well. I mean, while you're creating a new table, and you can also add this check constraint on existing tables as well. However, we will add this check constraint in on an existing employee table. Okay, and here you can see the syntax of adding a check constraint into an existing table. Okay, so we just need to use alter table command, and we need to use the add constraint and our constraint name, like we added the not null constraint and the foreign key constraint. Okay, and then you need to use check constraint keyword and then provide your boolean condition. Okay, so now let's add this constraint to the employees table. So first switch to the terminal and open the psql console, sudo -u psql. Okay, now first view the details of the employees table. Okay, so just run /d employees. Okay, and here you can see that right now we have these columns in employees table, and the constraint is like foreign key constraint and referenced by. Okay, now what we need to do, that we just need to run the alter table query for adding the check constraint on the employees table. So alter table, then your table name, that is employees, and then add constraint, and then your constraint name. Since we are adding check constraint for checking the salary value, so we can name this as salary check. Okay, and then use check keyword, that is your constraint, and now you need to provide your condition here. Okay, the boolean condition that you want to satisfy while inserting or updating an existing employee. Okay, so salary greater or equal than, let's say, 10,000. Okay, so run this query. Okay, and now verify this by using the /d employees, and here you can see the check constraint. Okay, in this check constraint you can see salary check salary greater or equal than 10,000. Okay, so now whenever you try to insert a new employee or try to update an existing employee, what you need to do, that you need to make sure that the value of salary column is greater than or equal to 10,000. Okay, if you provide any value less than 10,000, your row will not be inserted into the table and you will get a constraint violation error from the database. Okay, let's try this practically. So first insert an employee record. So what we can do, insert into employees. Okay, and then here you need to provide employee code, and then name, email, city, salary, state, country, and company ID. Okay, now provide the values here. Employee code, let's say emp 00 100, sorry, 1000. And now provide name, let's say Ramesh Chandra, and email is like ramesh@example.com, and then provide the value of city, that is, let's say, Indore, Okay, and now salary. Okay, so first we are trying to fail this constraint, so let's provide this value, let's like 5000 dot zero, and then now provide the value of a country, so state, so let's say MP. Okay, and here provide country, sorry, India, and then provide the company id, which is the foreign key, okay, or the primary key of company, so we can provide one here. Okay, and now when you run this query, you will see a constraint violation error, that is new row for relation employees violates check constraint salary check. Okay, that means you cannot provide the value of salary less than 10,000. Okay, so now let's try to improve that. So what we can do here, if you make it 15,000 for example, okay, and when you run this query now, you will see that this row is inserted into the employees table successfully. Okay, and you can see this into the employees table, so select star from employees, and when you run this query, you will see the last employee that is created has company id 1 and salary 15,000. Okay, now let's try to update an existing employee, just to see that how this constraint will fail at the update queries. Okay, so for example, here you can see that city is Nimas, so we will try to update the record of employee with id 2 or city Nimas. Okay, so update employees, set salary equal to, let's say, 9,000. Okay, where id equal to 2. Okay, or city equal to Nemus, whatever you want to do. Okay, now when you run this query, you will again see the error that new row for relation employees violates check constraint salary check. Okay, because you are trying to set salary value less than 10,000, so this will not work. And if you make it like, let's say, 19,000, okay, since right now it has salary 35,000, and if you make it 19,000, then you will see that this query will work. Okay, and if you can see the select star for employee, you can see that now the salary has been updated and it is like 19,000. Okay, so this is how we can use the check constraint on our existing attributes. Okay, however, this is a very basic use. We can use check constraint for more complex conditions as well. For example, we can provide options to choose any one value from the columns to be inserted into a record or inserted as a record. Okay, for example, consider the gender of an employee. It can be either male or female, so we can add a check in such a way that an employee gender cannot be other value rather than female or male. Okay, it must be either male or female. Okay, so let's try this practically. First, we need to add a gender attribute into employees table, and we can add the check constraint in same query as well. Okay, so this is a new thing, so you can also learn here that how we can add a column and check constraint into a single query. Okay, so what we can do here, alter table employees, add column gender. Okay, and make it where let's say 10, and then add constraint, let's say gender check. Okay, and then check, and now you need to provide a condition here. Okay, so what we can do here, to choose any one value from the male or female, so gender in, you can use in clause here, and now provide the possible values for employee gender. So first add male, and other you can add female. Okay, and run this query. So when you run this query, okay, so there is some error. Okay, we need to add comma after the varchar 10, so just add the comma here. Okay, and now run this query. So you can see that the employee table is altered now, and if you can verify this using slash d employees, so here you can see that now we have two check constraint, that is first is salary check that we tried and worked, and the other one is gender check. And here you can see that what condition we provided in the check constraint, that gender text any. Okay, and this is the array of values that we added here, like male and female. So array male character varying and female character varying. Okay, so now whenever you try to insert a new employee, your gender will be checked from these male and female values, and if it is anything other than male and female, you will get a constraint violation error. Okay, now let's try to insert a new employee with gender attribute. Okay, so we can use this same insert query here. Okay, now what we can do here, that we just need to provide gender column name, so gender. Okay, and at the last you just need to choose any value rather than male or female. So for example, let's say anything. Okay, or you can use other as well. Okay, so let's try to use other. Okay, and now when you run this query, you will get a constraint error that new row for relation employees violates check constraint gender check. Okay, why? Because we set the check constraint that gender can be either male or female only, but we are providing other. Okay, now let's try to use male or female at others. Let's say male. Okay, and when you run this query, and for change the email address as well, because there is some uniqueness constraint, so let's say ramesh 1. Okay, and change the employee code to 1001. Okay, now when you run this query, you will see that a new record has been added into the employees table. Okay, and now just see this, select star from employees. Okay, and when you see the output, you will see that the last inserted employee has the gender male. Okay, so in this lecture, what we learn, that how we can add or check constraint for an existing column on existing table, and how we can add check constraint by adding a new column into the table as well. And we also see the two different cases for adding check constraint, like we can add a single boolean condition, or we can provide multiple options to be chosen into the check constraint. Okay, and we also learned that what is check constraint and how we can use this to restrict specific column values. Okay, and you might need this in validating some business requirements. Okay, so try this lecture at your end, and we will meet into some other lecture. Till then, tata, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.